Now, again, a lot is covered as they do this city by city. Some of the villages, some of the towns that they enter, there's no resistance. Some of them, there is massive resistance. They push through it. They fight through it. Lots of lessons learned. Lots of incredible heroics. And eventually, they push through and they make it all the way into Czechoslovakia. And we're now approaching the end, not only for MacDonald, but the end for the war, as they go in to liberate Czechoslovakia. Going back to the book, our column continued forward, and my company shifted to the lead position on the tanks. I rode behind the lead tank in the artillery jeep. The little country towns changed into small industrial towns, and we began to notice a scattering of red, white, and blue Czechoslovakian flags in towns in place of the usual white flags of surrender. Civilians waved at us guardedly from behind closed windows. The scattering of Czech flags should have warned us, but we were totally unprepared for the mad celebration which greeted us in the next town. We had suddenly crossed from the Sudetenland into Czechoslovakia proper. The houses were a riot of color with red, white, and blue Czechoslovakian flags. Civilians lined the streets 10 deep, cheering and waving their flags as if their lives depended on it. Our column was forced to slow down, and the happy civilians pushed into the street and showered us with flowers and cakes and cookies. One old woman thrust a baked chicken into our jeep. Another old woman stood beside the road, waving both hands in the air, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. Little children were wild with joy. Some of them had never known anything but 6 years of Nazi occupation. The young men wore red, white, and blue armbands and carried German weapons, a part of the underground movement that was even now struggling against superior German forces in the capital city of Prague. Everyone was screaming the Czech words, "Nazdar, Nazdar," and we wondered what they meant. I looked up and down the column at the soldiers in the company. Brilliant smiles wreathed their faces, and they waved cheerfully at the shouting crowds as if they had just won an election campaign and this was a personal triumph. Hardened, stubble-faced veterans had unshamed tears in their eyes. The unleashed joy of these oppressed people knew no bounds, and it was too much for us. Suddenly, I began to realize what no one thus far had been able in the war to put into words. What we were fighting for. And I found a lump in my throat, which I could not swallow. Freedom. Freedom. Something we take for granted.